And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a Thursday edition of You Get What You Get. I'm Rick Hampton, along with Tree McDougal and Tim Turner, coming to you on a Thursday evening. Hope everybody's had a fantastic day as we go barreling into the weekend, guys. I mean, we are barreling into the weekend with conference tournament basketball, and we'll have the selection Sunday coming up. Who's on the bubble? Get your brackets ready. All that good stuff that we do in March. And Tim and Tree, what also happens in March, we see guys pack their bags. And sad occasion in the nation capital as a legend of college basketball and the guy that really helped put Georgetown University on the map. The great Patrick Ewing was fired by his alma mater today after 6 seasons as the head men's basketball coach there. And Tree and Tim, it was a struggle for Pat to get that program going, especially considering there were high expectations on him coming in after the tremendous career he had there during the 80s. Just your thoughts, Tree, on Pat's legacy uh, at Georgetown and the current events of his dismissal.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his, and I remember when he played at Georgetown. I mean, he was at there as a coach for 6 years, and so I know it's tough for them to let him go, being such a a important legacy of the university. But I think I was asking you earlier, you know, what about the players? I mean, was his coaching style bad? I don't know because I didn't really watch as much, but I'm not sure if it's recruiting issue or the players aren't as great, or was he just not you know his coaching skills? I don't know. So, what do you think, Tim?
Probably a combination because that record. I mean, coaches don't go out there and play. You can do only so many X's and O's if you don't have the talent. And I don't think he had the talent that his mentor Jordan Thompson had. I mean, it's player after player after player. Now there's a Savannah State connection there with your coach there, Coach Broadnax,
Mm-hmm.
played with Patrick at Georgetown,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him every opportunity. You would think 6 years to do that and to be excellent. He was an outstanding player, um, and I love watching him play in the NBA. I love that Knicks Rockets NBA championship series, chiefly because I lived in Houston and watched them get beat. But but it was fun to watch those guys and watch the New York media come into town during that time, the back-to-back championships. Um, uh, you don't want to see a bad thing happen like that. You wanted to see him have success, and I'm quite sure
Absolutely.
everybody was rooting for him
Mm-hmm.
in DC. I think his last job might have been with the Wizards. He coached in the NBA, I think, with three different teams: Orlando and Washington. And I'm trying to think of what the third one is. It escapes me now. The Houston Rockets. So uh, he'll find work. He's a Hall of Famer. He's an outstanding teacher of probably guys in the NBA who probably have a better handle on what he's talking about as opposed to some kids who are coming in. I rarely do you see superstars uh, coach and do it well. I'm trying to. I can't even think of anybody that was just a Hall of Fame guy that was a really great coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't teach what they can do.
Right, and then back to talking about the players that he had. Players don't stay for the whole 4 years, right? And so you talk about developing players, um, and it's kind of hard to do that when they're ready to move on to the draft. So I
Yeah,
said,
and I'm sitting here watching these highlights of him as a player doing that time in the Big East when the Big East was
mhm,
really the Big East, man. And you look at the style of play from that period, and you don't see anybody shooting threes. I know this is a Ewan highlight tape, but everything you were going to the basket. It was a mid range game, and he was just superb. And the quality of basketball back then far better than what we see today. In my estimation, there he is getting. I think that's Mullins from St. John. He just ate up
Yeah,
that.
Chris Mullins.
oh,
But
Oh,
yeah.
that's the other guy. Gosh,
but you
he
go to
played several years.
you go to Georgetown, man. There are some restrictions there in terms of academics, and Coach Thompson was able to deal with that, and clearly Pat wasn't able to get enough good players to get there because it's the bottom line. You need guys. You can't tell me he wasn't teaching the proper basics of basketball. And that losing streak was 29 straight games
Yeah,
over the
in the Big
course of
East.
seasons. And actually in 21 they did have some success. They got hot and won the Big East tournament and got to the NCAA's. But it is hard to win at that level, and he struggled. But I hope he seems to be a guy that carries himself with pride and dignity, and even though this didn't work out, nothing for him to feel ashamed of. He's not the first guy, as Tim said, the first great player to go up there and not be successful as a coach. It certainly does nothing to taint his Hall of Fame career as a player. He just wasn't a Hall of Fame coach, or
Yeah,
he hadn't demonstrated it so far.
Hmm. That's true.
right. Yeah, he's
But he wasn't the only one.
Nope.
He wasn't the only one. I mean, when you think of Pat leaving and Jim Boeheim uh, being asked to go also at Syracuse, it's kind of the end of an era. Those are two of the most important figures to come through the Big East. Let me play a little bit of Coach Boeheim's final press conference after their loss the other night.
From day one, when I started working here, the university hired me, and it's their choice what they want to do. I always have the choice of retirement, but it's their decision as to whether I coach or not. Always has been. Again, I've been very lucky to be able to coach my college team, to play and then be an assistant coach and then a head coach and never having to leave Syracuse. It's a great university. The city has embraced our team. The university hasn't offered me anything, whether to work or do anything at the university. That's their choice.
And their choice was
We'll
you
see
ain't got to
how-
go home,
got
Got to get the heck out of here. Mm.
but you got 47 years, Tree, at Syracuse. A great career, Hall of Fame career. He
Yeah.
helped, put that school on the map for basketball. Your thoughts?
Yeah, just having watched, basketball over the years, which is my favorite sport, just watching him coach, I'm just used to seeing him there on the sidelines, with the team. And so, yeah, it is surprising and a little bit sad. Like you said, it's the end of an era. And he seemed a little bit sad about it and threw in that they didn't offer him anything. And so, yeah, it happens. It's time for perhaps someone new, and it happens.
Well, I think they tried they got to go outside the family because I think when Coach Thompson left, his son came in, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then after he left, Ewing came in. So
Yeah.
they're going to have to do a little bit of work. Granted, I'm thinking Georgetown is a highly competitive academic school as well.
Mhm.
So you just can't roll up in there and just not do your work. And that wasn't the case. Even with people like, you look at folks like Iverson and Morning, they went to class. They did what they're supposed to do because Coach Thompson wouldn't accept anything less. And I'm sure that's what happens as well. And it's a different landscape too with a bunch of these kids. It's NIL time. And you don't know what they can do at Georgetown that they can do at Duke, or what they can do at Kentucky, where they can do some of these other powerhouse places, perennial powerhouse places. So, it doesn't tarnish anything about Pat Ewing, except he wasn't a successful coach at Georgetown. He's still one of the greatest guys to ever laced up some shoes and play, and he's still a legend. So it just didn't work out here.
Did either of you get a chance to meet him at any point?
Yeah, that's why I was listening. I kind of grinned when Ricky was talking about how he carries himself. That was one surly dude. And so it's like, yeah, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 encounters with him over in my lifetime, and every one of them seemed like, he'd rather be somewhere else.
Well, I think Pat had a very good reason for that when you consider some of the treatment he received from the media and from the fans throughout his career, questioning his intelligence. Patrick can't read, the bananas.
They made fun of the way he looked, and there was all kinds of just cruel things about that. But it wasn't always just the media. And there were people like, harmless old me wanting to go talk after a practice, and having this little dude passing him the ball throughout practice, ignoring me. It was Jeff Van Gundy. He was an assistant coach for the Knicks. And it's like 30 minutes after practice, he and Patrick are sitting out there working on shots, working on stuff. I mean, he was the first one into practice, the last one to leave.
Yeah.
And that just gives you an idea of his dedication. And I just needed 5 minutes. Bro, bro could give me 5 minutes.
Well, your thoughts on Boeheim?
Oh, Jimmy Boeheim, he's a legend. He absolutely is a legend. To me, I have a problem with anything from the Northeast anyway with sports. How the Big East was created so people would care about basketball on ESPN, with Syracuse, Georgetown, St. John's, all that stuff. I mean, those guys don't really play basketball up there. Villanova, basketball's played elsewhere. Michigan and the Carolinas down in the South. And it made people care about basketball because Syracuse has some really great teams, great players. Pearl Washington, Carmelo Anthony, there are people, this outstanding people. And then, you got, go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to throw in Billy Owens back in the day.
Yes, Billy Owens. I'm trying to think. It's another cat that was a monster for Syracuse.
Walking double from Detroit, the left-hander. Derek
Coleman.
Derek Coleman.
Think of it. That's the dude I was looking
walking for. 20-10, walking to the gym. You can write that down. 20.
Outstanding ball players. And I'm trying to think of where did your other Detroit player, would he go? Was he a Syracuse guy?
Dave Bean back in the day.
Yeah, Dave Bean.
Dave Bean may have been a teammate of. No, I think Bean was a little after. Boeheim was a little after Dave Bean. Mm-hmm. And in fact, his son is currently on the Pistons roster. Buddy Boeheim is currently on the Pistons roster, which kind of says something about the Pistons roster.
Name recognition. That's all that's going on there.
Yeah.
But you look at those. He was an outstanding coach, and the thing about it is, these people, the players respected him, and that's the thing. You get a whole lot out of that. Just outstanding stuff. Oh my goodness! The bottom of the screen, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph Riddle. Oh, thank you, Ralph Riddle. And you're right. Good luck to my son and his Red Hawks. They're trying to get to the national title game tomorrow. Appreciate that, Ralph.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how much I owe you for that, man?
But check the messaging window for the
for the
Yeah.
for the Venmo
Check
number
your
in
cash
the
app, man.
cash app.
Check your cash app. But yeah, I mean that happens. That you know, that, that's part of that business my son is in. Someday somebody gonna say, "Hey, bro, you ain't got to go home, but
It's
gotta get
gonna
out of
happen.
here."
gotta go, gotta go. Hey,
Yeah.
Ricky, let me circle back. You mentioned something about how people thought about or questioned Patrick Ewing's intelligence, and you sent an article about describing the lack of belief in Black intellect. Can you talk a little bit about that? There's an
Well,
article that you sent.
about
You said Wright describes society's lack of belief in Black intellect. Do you remember that article you
oh
sent?
yeah, I believe they don't think we can think. You
Mhm.
you remember back in the day, Al Campanis?
Oh man,
Uh,
gosh, they don't have the necessities
they
to
don't
be.
have the necessities
Yeah,
to be a manager
yeah.
in Major League Baseball.
Mm,
Those kind of things. Yeah, we can't play the quarterback position in the National Football League. We can't
mhm.
play middle linebacker. And I think that goes not beyond the athletic arena into the corporate world where people still think we don't have the necessities to lead in certain areas.
Well, you look at Major League Baseball. I think, and now we were, Houston Astros. They just hired the guy who used to be director of scouting here in Atlanta, Dana Brown. He's a black guy. He's the only black GM in baseball. One out of 30
Yeah,
some teams, one. And pro football's made a little bit better progress with that. The NBA does a good job with that, and I
yeah,
think the general manager for the San Jose Sharks is a brother. So
yeah.
it's these front office things. That's where the power is. That's where the decisions are made. The general manager of the Falcons is another one who's
Yeah.
with New Orleans. So I mean, you have those type of guys in there, but gosh, as far as coaches go, it's like a paucity of it in the NFL. Uh,
And women.
oh yeah, absolutely. And you see
Yeah.
only a few women. I think Tampa Bay uh, did a good job with hiring a couple of women. I think there's one in San Francisco. But people generally look at gender biases and look at that kind of thing. And here we are in March,
Yes.
and
Women's
it's
History Month.
Women's
Yes.
History Month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There are a lot
and
of
speaking of, and don't forget Swin Cash, uh, Hall of Fame player, played for Detroit Shock, is in the front office with the New Orleans Pelicans, and she plays an important role in that franchise. Ralph had one more comment about why did Boeheim act like they put him out. He gave a good
because they did.
speech.
Because they did.
47 years, 80 years old, it's time to go. You don't have to go home, but hey, Jim, that you know what? I don't
Yeah.
think the AD of Syracuse is a brother, because if he was, he probably would have said, "Hey, Jim, you don't have to go home." But
He just jingled some keys in front of him. Yeah.
uh,
That would have been like that. So like lights out, buddy.
yeah, absolutely. But Tree, you mentioned Women's History Month, and Tim, you sent over some really interesting facts about the WNBA and the state of that league. And, the WNBA was really front and center, for the past few months with the situation with Brittany Griner, her status over in Russia, where she was being used as a pawn. And people talked about the reason she had to go over there to make money was because she had to supplement her WNBA salary, even though she was one of the top players in the WNBA.
Yeah,
Speak a
I
little bit.
was on a
Yeah,
call the
go
other
ahead.
day with I forget the sports organization. It was a couple of days ago on a conference call where it made, I think they said LeBron James is making something around $35 million this year. And I think Sue Bird is the top player in the WNBA. And she's making $215,000.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a bit of a pay gap between the two leagues. Because you don't see anybody in the NBA running over there to play ball in Europe or in Russia when the season's over. You know, you got, I mean, there's 1 month's pay or a week's pay on the NBA on this person's entire yearly salary. Granted, they don't have the numbers that the NBA has in drawing fans, but that's changing. But nonetheless, it's there's a vast disparity, and the NBA, you know, gives lip service to that, but there should be a little bit better pay because you see it happen with soccer, where the women fought, and they're getting equal pay with the men's national team.
Yeah, and Tree, the Seattle Storm is now valued at a record $151 million, according to the Wall Street Journal.
You ready to buy it?
Yeah, that's chump change for you. But man, that says something about the state of some of these WNBA teams. They are the highest valued team in the WNBA, but the Storm worth 151 million. I wonder why some of that money's not flowing down into player salaries.
Exactly. I was just about to ask that, if it's valued at that, it seems like there's not a value of the players. If they're great, like, Griner or Bird, and other players, not just those, but they should have some equity in their salaries, and then also making sure that there's equity for them
Clark,
who are in front office as well. But yeah, there's clearly discrepancy in that, and the same session that Tim was talking about, I was on that same webinar, and they pointed out, just a lot of different beyond salaries, but yes, it's the promotion ability, ability to be promoted, or just don't get the same. And it's not just in sports, like you mentioned earlier, it also happens in business as well.
Well, yeah, you talk about the glass ceiling and that kind of thing, but it depends on too the culture of the different companies and how that goes. I mean, if people are used to seeing smart people, irrespective of gender or orientation or whatever, they're going to promote people. And you got people up there who are just used to the good old boy network, they're not going to do it. And you can't tell them how to run their company, how to spend their money, because you see that in the NFL all the time.
Sure.
You see at the like NFL Combine, it looks like, some sort of auction, because they check everything on these cats. They check their teeth, their background. Some of them ask really stupid questions about their family. Was your mom a hooker or some sort of, They get those kind of questions, and then, and I don't know if it's a draft ploy or not. Then these Wonderlic tests are occasionally leaked to embarrass the kid or to make their draft stock fall. But they run the 40s, they pump the weights, they try everything, and it does feel like it's a bit of a meat market. But when you're trying to invest millions of dollars in a player, you want to really thoroughly vet who this person is. Sometimes you can get fooled. Guy may look really good for a while, and the next thing you know, you got a bunch of masseuses coming out of nowhere saying you did stuff.
And then sometimes when they get there, they do things that we perhaps would not necessarily do.
Exactly.
Wave a gun.
Oh, so yeah, you got guys, who after a loss, how do I go about, instead of going back to my hotel room and maybe looking at what I did wrong or what my team did wrong that night, I think, what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to a club in Denver.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hang out beyond that, let me add a gun to it and let me post it on IG.
That's what the kids do. They post it on IG.
You know, other people post little plates of food where they're eating.
No, that's not good either.
Yeah,
It's not my thing.
But no.
We could really do a show on social media gaffes by athletes.
Oh, absolutely.
We could do a 2-hour show.
I mean,
I'm trying to think of, it was some guy, offensive lineman, about to be a top 10 pick.
Oh, for Ole Miss. Ole Miss.
And they got him with a mask.
He was smoking weed through a gas
Oh,
mask.
yeah. I remember that.
On draft night that comes out.
Dude,
I'm like, come on, kid.
Come on, man.
It's like in a gas mask.
Come on.
That was brilliant.
But
Kyrie Irving, I didn't even know anything about Kyrie. But anytime I see him now, brother believes the earth is flat. That's all I need to know. He says the earth is flat.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And he always tries to be smarter than everybody else or come off as being this really deep thinker, intellectual. But it's like, that was your first, that was what you led with. The earth is flat. Everything after that, you have to just check it out.
Mm. Ricky, did you have a video of that, what we were talking about?
Oh, Ja?
Yeah.
I want to get to that, but I do want to just hit this thing with the women in sports right quick, because
Please do.
the Ally Financial ad buy with Disney is set to focus on women's sports, and maybe the biggest deal yet in terms of dollars that will be attached. They hadn't announced how much it's going to be, but man, I think this is a great opportunity for the WNBA and all the women's sports. USA women's soccer team is more popular than the men's team.
Absolutely.
To really take another step forward. And, the women's Final Four is always really good. You got two dominant coaches with Gino and
Don Staley.
And Don Staley at
South Carolina.
And UConn. So we got that. It's never going to reach the men's level, but how far can they go?
Good question. I would
And
say,
am I wrong for saying it's never going to reach the men's level? Because I have no problem if they ascend to those heights.
nah, I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I just feel like there's progress being made, but it feels like it's very, very slow. The women's teams have been more so on the forefront of the social movements, as we've talked about. But I feel like, they definitely need to be compensated. And I'm just wondering, when will it be? It may not be equal. It should be equal. But it's got to be better than what it is. I mean, they're out there using their bodies. They're playing. They're smart. I was at an event last night where women who are working in the construction field were talking about, people questioning, your hands are too soft. You shouldn't be, can you lift things? And like, we still say things like that to people. Okay? I'm just like, yeah. And this is a lady who owns her own business. And she said, I'm lifting solar panels, and they're still telling her, and again, it's her company. You sure you can lift this? Your hands are too soft. I'm like, what is that? Yeah. So questioning a woman's strength and her ability to do her job. Yeah.
But Tim, you look at what Venus and Serena did for women's tennis, doing their run. I think they made that sport more popular than the men's game for a while.
They did, and well, it's not for a while. It's like I couldn't tell you who an American player is. Not one American player. But but I know who's on the women's side. At least two on the women's side. And
well, three now because Coco.
it's Coco Gauff and it's a Naomi Osaka. Those I mean, maybe Naomi's out of commission. I understand she's with child. But those type of things with sports. Because I worked in Orlando, and because I saw him as an amateur coming up, Tiger Woods got me interested in golf 30 years ago, right when he was coming out the chute, because he was still at Stanford when I first met him. But the idea is, when we do well, it changes things. We have if there's ever going to be a great hockey player, I'm sure we will roll up in there and do hockey. Same with
race car driving.
Yeah, you got Bubba Wallace in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and it was a little known thing. I think the guy who won the Daytona 500, that's their Super Bowl. They start off the first race of the year. Well, I forget the name of the driver, but I know that Brad Daugherty, former North Carolina Tar Heel, was a co-owner or owner of that team that won NASCAR, that won the Daytona 500. So when we get in these things, Michael Jordan, I think, is also part of that Bubba Wallace team, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like when we go in these different areas and different avenues, it shows there's thinking going on somewhere. Even if it's just to write the check, there's some thinking going on. They're not throwing money just after bad ideas. NASCAR is rife for a shift of sorts, and Bubba's probably the perfect person to do that. And Tiger, somebody else has to come along, because now he's starting to, make more headlines off the field, off the course, than he is on. Because you see the story the past couple of days about his former girlfriend wants to dissolve the NDA, and I think she wants $30 million from him. And
how many putts you make?
What?
How many putts did you make, young lady?
Well, she was there when he was making his, so almost the same thing. She was clapping.
How many putts? Hey, speaking of bad ideas, Tree. Speaking of bad ideas.
Bad idea.
I think that's no one here. I'm a gangster for rain. I'm in the side of baby. I rhyme and rhyme some baby. I can dance like every skin I can all plan it. I'm a thumb with back of brain. Hey, Dr. Reed, man. That's it, man. You gonna go to the man, you're a madman. I said, where you knocked off? I said, the charge of my fault. I said, yeah, it's been when you when I leave that key off your broke dog. And I get the ambulance drop when you be there. And tell her I was down. And I'm on the block with your bag. And won't take you there, only get shut down. The defense will be so square around. I got money.
That's it.
Man, you got me tripping in this bitch. That nigga ain't slime.
I got money.
Not for long.
Did he just win the NBA championship?
No, he got. I think they lost to Denver that night, so he got
No,
money.
I think he was acting like they just won the NBA championship.
That's the first time I've seen that clip, and I kept seeing his fingers and whatever. I'm like, man, because Skip Bayless made a point, and gosh, I'm not even trying to be behind.
Okay.
And he was throwing down these Crip signs, and he was trying to associate him with a gang. And which was kind of like, wow, Skip Bayless knows what. I guess he's out there in Los Angeles. He knows the Crips and the Bloods. Maybe he does.
Or
Maybe
someone on his team told him what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. Shannon probably looked across and gave him what's up. But really, it's just a bad look. It's an ignorant look. It's an immature look. It is a no home training look. It is it is every negative thing you would ever want to say about giving somebody some money. Because the money doesn't change them. They're gonna be who they are.
I got to talk about his mama now.
I ain't talking about his mama and them. I know Dad is always around at the game. No one to start fights with Shannon Sharp and whatnot.
Ah, yes.
So and then about to mess up Shannon's fancy sweaters. So yeah, don't want to do that.
But go on.
It's just bad. It's a bad look because
I was mesmerized by the necklace.
Oh yeah,
the chains. Yeah, I was like, what's that?
That's like I said. That's like that was 2 weeks' salary around his neck.
I like Jordan.
But then he was going to be one of the faces of the new guys coming up in the NBA. I think Powerade just dumped him. He's lost some endorsements behind this. This is people say this is a lesson learned. Because it seems like our kids are the kids that are making these egregious mistakes. I just look at the guy, Falcons' former receiver Calvin Ridley was suspended for a year because he was bored because he was hurt. Away from the team, he got bored and started gambling on a gambling app on his phone. And he said, I want to support my boys, so let me gamble. Let me bet on the Falcons to win. The NFL frowns on that, and he was suspended for a year. Got reinstated this week. Falcons traded him to the Dolphins. Dolphins traded him to Jacksonville. He's now eligible to play for the Jaguars. But he said that was the worst mistake he's made in his life. I mean, other people do other stuff when boredom. They put chips in bottles, play chips, anything else. But gambling is your go-to? And so he's lost a year of football.
I mean, but
he's healthy, but it's another incident of a kid with money. He gave a backstory. He had some familiar issues. Well, some things happened here in Atlanta. There was a bunch of folks going around hitting athletes' homes. He had his house robbed here in Atlanta, along some other people that had their houses robbed. I'm not thinking it's Michael Vick, but some other celebrities had their homes. Athletes had their homes broken into in Atlanta, and his wife was scared, and he was like, he's dealing with pressures of that, not wanting to leave her alone and that kind of stuff. It just it doesn't seem like there's a lot of good decisions being made.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Trey. I want to get your thoughts.
No, I was going to say it's hard to make good decisions when you're under duress or stressed about something.
Right.
And so I think that, you're right. Other people may choose other methods when they're bored. His was, sadly impacted his ability to play and his financial status. So lesson for him and maybe a lesson for others.
Yeah. I definitely get this because he is a player, but you look at how pro sports is turning to gambling now when 20 years ago you couldn't talk
about the line.
Yeah, you could. That flashing the line, DraftKings is sponsoring. So this dude puts some down his own cash on his own team to win. I get it. But to me, there's some hypocrisy there from the NFL. And it ain't the first time they have flashed hypocrisy, like some of the messages on the back of the helmets. We are united and
racism, blah blah blah.
Dude, you're not serving me putting that in the back of the end zone or something. Whatever it costs to put that little thing down there, donate that. I don't care if it's $500. Donate that $500 to some local organization,
right?
Instead of writing it down in the back of the end zone. So. But guys, the athletes, high-profile athletes have been making bad decisions really forever. Not just black athletes, white athletes, brown athletes. Everybody does it because when you're that age, you do stupid things. And sometimes when you a professional athlete, you're a young person with a lot of money who does stupid things.
True.
So, I tried to show some restraint there, but man, I tell you, if I'm a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm really worried about my team because my best player is not ready to lead a team. How can how can I think this guy, as great as he is going to have the 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 intangibles to go on the road and win a big game in the playoffs uh, with my team. And you know when he does come back, when he does go on the road, he's gonna hear it.
Oh yeah.
He's
I
he's
mean, I'm
gonna
no athlete, but clearly, but how, if you're expected to lead a team, but you don't have those leadership skills or quality, or nobody's talked to you about it, you
That's
know,
true.
but
how,
but, but
I
sometimes you can do it in a quiet way. I had the it was a pleasure and an honor to cover Barry Sanders throughout his Hall of Fame career in Detroit. And Barry, he was certainly was not a vocal leader. He's much more outgoing now, but Barry used to sit in the locker room, and you think he was like the 53rd guy on the team. If I just sit here and be quiet, maybe they won't cut me. Like, you're a Hall of Fame running back. But he demonstrated it with his work ethic, because you talk about Patrick being the first one out and the last one back. That was Barry Sanders. So he was able to show it that way. I think I think he can show leadership in a lot of different ways. But I know after getting your butt kicked in a game, going out to the club and
right.
and, and dancing and celebrating like you won the NBA championship and showing a gun on social media, uh, hey, is not good leadership. And,
alcohol could
and
have
as
been
I say
involved.
that, the Grizzlies referee just checked in. The Grizzlies lead Golden State 117 to 102 with 4 minutes to go in the game. As I said, they must be at the crib because, as I said, the Grizzlies become the Pistons when they hit the road. So if they're on the road, the Golden State Warriors are about to go 7-28, and that is the most. And I know this wasn't on the list to talk about tonight, but I've never seen such a disparity from a championship caliber team. I think they're 27 and uh, almost the exact opposite in Golden State, maybe 27-8 or something like that. But on the road, they are 7 and about to be 28. Never seen such a disparity in all my years watching the NBA.
Hmm.
So, so clearly, when they go on the road, they aren't focusing on winning because they are certainly capable uh, of doing that.
Maybe
But
they're tired.
maybe they're just waiting for the playoffs. Some of these guys, some of these
Yeah.
good teams, like we'll just catch y'all in the playoffs. Hey, and another thing, Tree, I think you mentioned the NFL Combine,
Hmm.
and just finished up in Indianapolis, and it's the yearly gathering of all the draft prospects, at least those who want to work out uh, before the NBA draft as we go into draft season and free agent season in a couple of weeks. Man, when you look at the quarterback position in the NFL today, we had the historic matchup in the Super Bowl
Hmm.
of Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. I think the emergence of the black quarterback continues to be that, with some of the top quarterbacking candidates out there being young black quarterbacks. Uh, C.J. Stroud, uh,
Hmm.
Bryce, Bryce Bryce Young from Alabama, Anthony Richardson from uh,
Florida.
Florida. Uh, and there's also a little controversy regarding the uh, the combine tree and Tim, where there have been people, and this is we've heard this before, where there's some liking the combine to slavery. Uh, your thoughts on the NFL combine? Start with you, Tim.
I believe it's necessary for if these guys are gonna, you think in this the NFL, the big business that it is, they want to make sure that they're going to get the most bang for their buck. That's where people look at incoming rookies. It's where agents and coaches and coaching staffs start laying groundwork for free agents.
Malik Cunningham
It's
out of Louisville.
necessary so kids will know if they stink it up in Indianapolis. Almost all these cats have individual pro days on their college campus. They get a do-over. So I think it's necessary, but at the same time, it just feels like a modern day slave auction per se, because it's like it's all about numbers and measurables, and it's not so much more about personalities. I mean, the interviews are part of it, but I don't think it matters as much as what these guys are doing out there on the turf.
I agree with that. I think that, it's sort of like, this big show, and sort of like a dog and pony show, I guess. But I think that, if you're going to be investing money to pay these individuals, one, you want to make sure, like you said, you're getting the best player that you can. But at the same time, as we just pointed out, you can get a good player, but then of any sport, but then they could go out and do something that, or they might not be a great leader that you thought. So here they're looking at, how high they jump, how fast they run, and accuracy of, throws and catches and things like that. But it feels, particularly when they start asking them questions that have nothing to do with perhaps their athletic ability, that it feels more disingenuous as far as, I don't know why they would ask someone why was their mother a prostitute. It has nothing to do with their ability to play, unless it's trying to rattle them. And do they ask that of, all players?
No.
Yeah. So, and those are just some of the stories that we know about. But I think that, I could see why people would make that correlation between that. But they all participate in it.
Because it's millions of dollars. It's going to be Richardson made himself several $1 million this year, but this combine. But it makes me think it's because of all this his off the charts athletic ability. Mm-hmm. There's another guy several years ago that had off the charts athletic ability as a quarterback. It's a guy at LSU. It was drafted number 1 by the Raiders, and he flamed out in a huge way.
What is his name? I will look his name up.
Right, and you get caught up in that. You think about quarterbacks; their guys are supposed to make good decisions all the time, and I have so soured on Stetson Bennett from Georgia. Just his whole vibe. He's gone from just an outstanding story. You get a Hollywood movie type thing to knocking on strangers' door, drunk in Dallas, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's not a good look for Stetson. It's on the heels of how DeMarcus Russell. There you go. How he conducted himself after the victory, during the victory celebration in Athens, and he had plausible reasons, but how he explained himself was that did not look good, and he's got to recover.
What was his plausible reason? I missed that.
Oh, that he was ignoring these people because he had these phones in his hand, and they gave him the responsibility of playing the music. I think it was in the stadium or in the car, whatever it was, and he was trying to sync up his phone with the music to play because he was riding with his boys for the last time in his car. And it's, kids, they look at that as more important than, a stadium full of 100,000 people, to root for you. And then he was like, we showed all of y'all that we were really great, blah, blah, blah. His speech was the airing of grievances. It's like Festivus. He was airing grievances instead of saying thank you. It was more like, hey, we showed you. Y'all said we weren't going to do it, but we did it. Mm-hmm. Come on, man. Come on. It's a time and place for that. And that wasn't it. So he's dropped a lot in my eyes. But for him I think there are 13 quarterbacks that worked out there, and he comes in at number 7, which isn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
And his old offensive coordinator is now the offensive coordinator at Baltimore, and maybe that's where he'll end up going.
Mm-hmm.
Richardson, people looking at him as possibly being a number 1, but the Bears have the number 1 pick, and the Bears already have a quarterback, Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ralph has a comment and a question. The measuring of athletes is akin to poking and prodding, looking at slaves' teeth, and you know what? I'm just saying. Yeah, I definitely get that. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely get that. That's good. Is Bryce too little?
No,
I don't think so.
you got other runts out there, relatively speaking. I mean, Drew
He's
Brees
bigger
wasn't 6 feet tall.
Right.
Okay, and he had a pretty successful NFL career with the Saints.
Yeah.
Kyler
Kyler Murray's not.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's a small guy. I mean, really, he should be in baseball, but he's a small guy. He's not a big guy. You don't have to be over 6 feet to be a quarterback. You just have to be able to, move, get out the way, see over linemen. I'm trying to think. Baker Mayfield is a guy who was a smallish guy. I think he might be 5'11", but he kept getting balls batted down to the line of scrimmage because he would stick up there in the pocket instead of moving around. But Bryce, he's a light guy. It's not so much his height. I think he weighs 205. I think that's his
That's
weight.
yep, it's at 205.
So you got people there. I mean, he'll get snapped in half if he doesn't put some on that body.
Put some meat on the bones.
Yeah, that's what it is. Meat on the. He needs that for sure.
Hey guys, your thoughts on Lamar Jackson getting an exclusive franchise tag, and Daniel Jones getting a big deal from the Giants, and some NFL players are wondering, how does dude in New York get a huge deal and Lamar Jackson, a former MVP, couldn't get a deal done? And I think there are really some concerns in Baltimore because, for one, I think the Ravens are trying to get something done, and Ozzie Newsome is not there in an official capacity, but Ozzie Newsome is still there and still has a lot of influence with that franchise. And Ozzie was the guy that drafted this young man, so I know he would like to get something done with him. But I think Lamar is just stuck on that deal that the young man from Texas got. His name escapes me now.
Watson? Is it Sean Watson?
He's stuck on the Sean Watson's deal from Cleveland, which was a bad deal.
Yes.
For Cleveland,
and
nobody else is going to give him that.
No, everybody's like that. Y'all, if y'all mad, be mad at the Cleveland front office. They're the ones that did that for somebody who has really damaged goods. I think there's a lack of respect for for Lamar's representation.
Mm.
I think that's what the problem comes in,
which is Lamar.
No, well, it's his mama. His mama is working as his agent. So these cats up thinking they can play him because he's got mama, running things. And then I think what is it? JJ Watt was the first somebody coming out and saying, it's like, have y'all ever seen where like 5 or 6 teams who need quarterbacks coming along saying we're not in the Lamar Jackson business this year? They could be lying, but it looks like they're trying to like squeeze him or drive down his price. Well, you got somebody who is I heard a nickname for him this week, and it was really embarrassing for Daniel Jones. I think he called himself, or somebody called him Vanilla Vic, which was he is nothing like Michael Vick,
right?
By any stretch of imagination. He's not worth the money that the Giants will be paying him, and they will find that out. It wasn't like they bid against themselves, actually. So there's something wrong when you got somebody with Lamar who is a proven commodity, and Jones had one good year.
Hey, Tree, do you think Lamar needs an agent?
You know, I think everybody should have one, but I can't. But I mean, sometimes you need someone.
And go a little further in explaining why
You know, you need someone with to work alongside of you to help get you the best deal that you can and represent you. You may not be that person. It could be your mom, could be your dad, but you want to make sure that you have a level playing field as far as your representation if you're going as other people. That's what I would think. That, I don't, you may love your parents, but they may, but do they have the expertise, or your cousin, or your uncle, or whoever that is, was a family member? And I understand you want to, you think they have, and they probably do have your best interest. But you want to make sure you get someone who can get you, that you trust, and who can get you what you need to be able to do what you need to do in your life as a player, athlete.
I agree. Love your mama, love your daddy, but these are sharks. You're a goldfish. It's got to be level. I don't think his mom probably knows an nth of what's going on. Granted, I don't know her at all.
I don't know nothing about his mama.
I don't know nothing about his mama. I'm just saying, I don't think there's the level of respect because they're doing it in-house.
But I'm going to say, just because she's a woman doesn't mean she doesn't know. She's been with him this whole time, so she could be doing her work.
Gender was not in it and all this stuff.
I was getting ready to say, don't hate on the moms, don't hate on the women.
I mean, it could be that. I mean, there's some things like that. I mean, like me, I thought that the Ball's dad, Lonzo, LaMelo, and all those cats, I thought their dad did them a disservice by talking all that noise, but he got them all paid. I just don't think it's in this realm. I think that they're out of their depth. Except he should get what he asked for, because he is better than Deshaun Watson, and he's better than Daniel Jones.
And
all these teams saying they don't want a quarterback. I think right now, who do you want, Derek Carr or Lamar Jackson?
Come on.
Who do you want? The kid in Atlanta, the rookie who played only 4 games.
Come on.
Do you want him or do you want Lamar Jackson?
Hey,
the Raiders don't have a quarterback. Do you want whoever that they have over there or Lamar Jackson?
Who you want, Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, really.
Man, come on, man.
So it's
and look, and $32 million is what he'll earn this year. That's a pretty good consolation prize.
It is.
So I'm cheering for that young man to get what he deserves, because as we kind of opened the show, I really think it's the dawning of the black quarterback in the National Football League, and you got a whole nother crop of guys coming. Hey, we had some problems hooking up with Kim Davis tonight, but we will get her back, I'm sure, Tim, and we send our apologies. There was some miscommunication there, I believe, on my part, and I apologize for that. But we definitely need to get Kim back in here, and maybe we could do that next week or Monday, which is right around the corner. So we'll do that. But I got to get out of here. Ralph Riddle, I will see you at the game tomorrow. Let's go Lake Michigan. Let's go get this. For my co-host, Tree McDougal and Tim Turner, I'm Rick Hampton. Hope you guys have a great evening. See you Monday. Peace, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.